Today is May 18th, 2022. My name is Sherman Lee. I'm the reference librarian for the Hanford branch of the Kings County Library. And this is part of the Kings County Library's Veterans History Project. And would you please state your full name?
Yes, Richard Perez.
Okay. And Richard, where are you from?
I was born in Corcoran, and I was raised here in Hanford, California. I'm a 1986 Hanford High graduate.
Are your parents still with us?
No, they have passed away.
What did they do for a living?
Well, my father, he joined the Army back in 1950. He was an Army infantry soldier, the 82nd Airborne, and then he got out of the Army and then became a truck driver. My mother was a homemaker. When I was a younger child, though, my parents did separate, and my mother was a single parent and raised all 8 of us.
Okay. And you said, have you had any siblings?
Yes, I have. I have 8 siblings. One has passed away, our oldest sibling, and I saw there's 3 girls and total of, counting myself, 5 boys, so a total of 8 in that.
Oh, okay. And what are their ages?
Well, the current one that's still alive, my sister Gloria, she is 68 years old. My second sister Linda, she is 65. My first oldest brother Eddie, he is 62. My brother Manny, he is 60. My brother Jesse is 58. I'm 54. My youngest brother Charlie is 53.
Did they serve?
Yes. After my father served, my sister Linda decided to join the Army, so she was assigned to the 101st Airborne in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And then after following her, my brother Manuel, he decided to enlist and he joined the Air Force. He retired with 26 years of active federal service in the U.S. Air Force. He was working as a civilian in the Air Force at Nellis Air Force Base, but now he's just retired enjoying time. And then my brother Jesse, he enlisted into the Air Force for 4 years, and then got out of the Air Force and enlisted in the Army for 2, and then myself.
Okay. What did they do before serving?
What did I do before serving?
Or what? Yes, what did you do
before serving? Well, prior to me enlisting in 1987, I had 2 jobs actually. In the morning, I worked at the Kmart department here on Lacey Boulevard, right there, which is now the Chryslers, the home care department. Before there was Home Depot and Lowe's. And then in the evening, I was a cook at a Mexican restaurant off of 10th Avenue, Camino del Valle. So I did those 2 jobs. I was working a lot, but I just wasn't having the benefits, so that's why I decided to enlist.
For your early days of service, what military branch of service did you serve in?
I served in the U.S. Army.
Okay. Were you drafted or enlisted?
I was enlisted. I was a volunteer enlisted.
Okay, and what year was that?
That was in November of 1987. I enlisted into active duty.
What inspired your choice of the military branch?
Well, just family history also, with my father joining the Army, my sister joining the Army, and I looked at all branches. Every branch is a great branch to serve in. I leaned towards the Army. It offered me what I wanted and gave me a little more additional things that I needed.
How was the boot camp experience?
Boot camp basic training, just like anything else, as family members prior to me going in, I already had my sister, my 2 brothers that had served, and they try to prepare you for basic training boot camp. It is a shock method. So it was initially, it was a shock. I'll share a story. As we got in, I went into Fort Sill, Oklahoma in November, so it gets pretty cold in Oklahoma. There's no mountains, nothing to stop the wind. So we're up at Old Dark 30, getting in processed, and then we get to wake up at 04:30, and so we did that whole week of processing, got my hair cut, all that, everything else. But day 1, and when the drill sergeants picked us up, it was definitely a shock. He went from a calm, professional individual and turned into the Tasmanian devil. So it was definitely a shock. But it was an experience, and it was the first entrance into my military career.
Tell me about your drill instructor or any other instructors.
Well, my drill instructors, I had a lot. I was part of Alpha Battery 1st in the 33rd Field Artillery Regiment. That was out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It was a one duty station training. That means you did basic training, combat training, and then you transferred to do your advanced training. Anyway, I was in 4th platoon of that battery, and my platoon, majority of my peers were all from New York, and they were all National Guard and Reserve. There was only 2 of us that were active duty, myself and another soldier. So the drill sergeants, we had about 3 drill sergeants that were from New York. So obviously they loved to come to our platoon and talk to those to-be soldiers, basic trainees. And we had special, I say treatment, you could say. It was good. It was something I'll never forget.
Let's talk about military life and adjusting to it.
Adjusting to the military life, obviously, coming from being a 19-year-old kid, out here in Hanford, California, never really leaving California, and going to Oklahoma during the wintertime. That was a shocker because never really experienced snow or cold. Anything 30 degrees or below, that was very cold, and it really impacted me a little bit at first to get used to. But once I got used to the routine of what needed to be done, I think it was okay. It's just like anything else. You got to adapt to your environment and understand what's around you and what's expected of you. And it was a great learning experience. It's an experience I'll have for life that I'll never forget about.
What did you do on leave?
Well, throughout my career, during leave, it all depends, but a lot of times I would either come home based on where I was located at in the world, visit family. I would visit my mother as many times as I could while she was still alive, or my siblings. A lot of times spend time with my family, take family trips, either be, to amusement park. For example, when I was stationed in Germany, we used to go see Germany and Europe all around. Anything from the Neustein Castle to Garmisch. There was a great military resort there called Edelweiss. It was very, very nice. So I would spend, quality time with my family, would travel and see the world.
Was there any specialized training, and how long was it?
Through my additional training of my specialty in the Army, I did some additional training such as airborne school, was a parachutist, and also air assault school. Those were some additional training. The airborne was about a total of 4 weeks. You have to learn to be a parachute, airborne soldier. And then the air assault school was about 2 weeks, which dealing with a lot of rotary wings, helicopters, learning to repel, sling load equipment, prepared to be airlifted. So those were some great additional training that I was able to get.
Going back to the question about what did you do on leave, was there, how did the local civilian population treat U.S.
service members?
Yeah.
Depending on where I was at in the world. In Germany, they still love the U.S. service member. They're still thankful for us. They kind of miss the days of when their currency was francs versus euro. But in Germany, it was very welcoming. Parts of the world, my first duty station I was stationed at was Fort Polk, Louisiana. I'm talking about a change of environment from dry heat California to humidity, especially in April. It was a different part. Majority of the civilian population, they received us. They understood. They thanked us a lot for what we do. And throughout my career, I've had majority of positive impact, experiences through my time and my assignments.
All right, let's see. Wartime, when, where, how. Okay. What years did you deploy?
What years did? Well, I did 3 deployments. My first deployment was in 2004 to 2005. That was Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then my second deployment, that was a 12-month deployment. My second deployment was 2007 to 2008. That was a 15-month deployment. That was a long one. And then my last, that was also in Iraq. And then my third deployment was Operation Enduring Freedom. That was 2010 to 2011. And that was in Afghanistan.
What military combat operations were going on?
Well, during the time we had, obviously Operation Iraqi Freedom when I was in Iraq, and then Operation Enduring Freedom. We were basically the fight on global terrorism.
Did you deploy before or during the start of combat operations?
My first deployment was Operation Iraqi Freedom had already kicked off, so it was during deployment.
Was your deployment involved in direct or indirect support of combat operations?
It was first deployment, well actually all three deployments were direct support of combat operations. Me being an artilleryman, our first deployment I was a master gunner, so I was a gunner to master gunner to make sure that all our artillerymen were certified and ready to conduct combat operations with our howitzers, provide fire support for the infantry. My second deployment, I went there as a platoon sergeant. We didn't do, and that was in Iraq also, that was a 15-month deployment. We didn't do a lot of artillery missions. We did a lot of non-standard missions where we did a lot of air assault missions, night raids, and we're seeking and finding terrorists and terrorist groups wanting to hurt American soldiers. And so that's what we did. And then my last one was obviously Afghanistan.
What were some of the stresses associated with your deployment?
Well, there's a lot of stresses. Obviously, combat is one of them. There's always the chance that you may be a casualty, either be a wounded in action or a killed in action. So that's always in every soldier's mind, no matter what. It's just knowing your mission, knowing what you got to do, and staying focused. Also, stress is just being away from family too. That adds some stress because you want to make sure that they're taken care of back home, where they stay, where you left them, and that. So, but there were everyday stresses. Just knowing how to manage it and mitigate it, and understand that you have a mission to accomplish, and just being able to do that.
Okay, how would you say that these experiences impacted your life?
The experiences with regards to the combat experience?
Yes.
Well, it definitely does. It helps you. It helped me get some perspective and continue my perspective of life. You never take anything for granted, because you just never know. Tomorrow's not guaranteed to you. During my 3 combat tours, we've lost personnel. So obviously, you have to understand that, especially as a leader, that that's part of the mission. That's part of that what war is about. People will die. People will come back alive, but with scars, either it be emotional scars or physical scars. Physical wounds or emotional wounds. So it definitely allowed me to see things from a different perspective in regards to the culture, to the people that we're helping. To defend their freedom, to help liberate them, and understanding how they see the world. And I was surprised because a lot of things that they wanted were things that you and I wanted as an American person, here in America, where we have a lot of things available to us. They kind of want the same thing, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of different ages and types of international personnel from either Iraq or Afghanistan.
Tell me about your military friendships.
Well, military friendships, they're lifelong. There are some that you will gravitate to, that you'll have a connection with, but no matter what, they never go away. They're lifelong. They're a battle buddy that, especially in combat, that you've served and led, soldiers that I've led, that I've served with side by side, that experienced the shame, sweat, blood, tears, joys, happiness, successes, failures. Those never go away. You'll never lose that friendship. It's just a matter of staying connected, and remaining connected. But there's times in my life after post-military that I may come across a certain smell or a certain scene or a certain thing that I see in this world, just in my daily life, just brings back those memories, and reminds me, to never forget, I served my country and my comrades, in arms. We served our country.
Do you stay in contact with your battle buddies, friends, and family, and if so, how?
Yes, I still do. What's so great about today, based on when I first came in '87, the technology, today's technology is so easier to stay connected. I mean, I can be connected with friends across the world, overseas or within the United States. So, social media has been a great platform to one way of staying connected. Either it be through, one of the social or professional, platforms. But that's how I stay connected. Through phone numbers, calls, messaging. Not really too much letter writing anymore. I don't think anybody ever really writes any letters now. I think that's kind of a lost art, But that's how I stay connected, Just remain in contact. I've had soldiers that served under me. I had leaders that I served under that were great mentors that I stay connected, and I reach out to them, things about just life in general, their experience, after leaving the military, after retiring, getting their feedback, getting their, experience of things that they might have come across that now I'm experiencing. So I think it's a great opportunity to do that.
Do you have any specific memories about your service in the Army?
Man, with 31 years of service, there's probably take you about 2 days to experience every one, but I can start with, my latest one. I'll start back from when I retired to starting one. I was prior to me retiring, I was able to continue my education, higher education. I was able to achieve a graduate's degree and achieve a master's degree. And I reflect on that because prior to me joining the Army, I knew I wasn't ready to go to college after high school. I just felt like I wasn't there. So to me, that was a big accomplishment to achieve that because I wasn't a 4.0 student. I was more of a C and D student, but I was able to, with hard work, perseverance, and determination, I was able to achieve all the different levels of education, from associates to bachelor's and then a graduate's degree. So that's one accomplishment that I like that I did accomplish, that the Army helped me accomplish. I didn't have to spend the dime. The Army kind of paid for it all through tuition assistance, which is a great program. And that. The other accomplishment that I was very proud of, that's memory, is being able to achieve, the rank of Command Sergeant Major. I remember as a young private and growing into the ranks of, getting ready to become a young sergeant. My sergeant majors before me, they'd ask me, hey, Sergeant or Specialist Perez, what's your goal? What do you want to do? What's your ultimate goal? I say, I want to be a Command Sergeant Major one day like you, Sergeant Major. And I was able, and now that I reflect, I was able to do that. And I feel thankful, I feel blessed that I was able to do that. And just being able to do all those different things. The Army has been a great experience. It's had your ups and downs, but overall, I reflect, it's been a great experience.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Medals and citations, yes. If you look at within Combat Tour, I was awarded, the Bronze Star Service Medal through all three of my tours. I received one for each tour. Through my military service, I retired with the Legion of Merit, so that was a pretty good experience. I was real happy about that. And then if you look to my right, I got a couple medallions here, and if you look from bottom to top, the blue one is it's called the Sergeant Artie Murphy medallion, and I was very proud of myself to be able to accomplish that and receive that. It wasn't a give me. I had to attend many different evaluation boards and performance, and I was able to achieve that when I was a young Staff Sergeant E6. And then the other two, the ones with the red, those are the Order of the St. Barbara. The first one is the Order of St. Barbara for being a field artilleryman and continuing on to improve my professional experience and growth within the field artillery community. And then my last one was the Ancient St. Barbara, and that one isn't given out to just anybody. And I felt like that was a big accomplishment. It was a validation of all my hard work and contribution that I've given to the field artillery community through training, through deployments, through education. I felt validated for this. So those are three definite things that I'm proud of.
Would you like to speak about a wounded or fallen comrades?
Yeah, in my second deployment of 2007, 2008, I was a first sergeant, and I was a Charlie Battery Fire Squadron, 2nd Cav Regiment, and we were stationed out of Vilseck, Germany. And we had a mission that night. It's Operation Festoon, and what it basically entailed was in the Diyala province and around the Fava Horse, that's just north of Baghdad. We had to clear these things called palm groves, which is kind of almost looks similar to trains close to a jungle almost kind of. But anyway, there was known IED making locations there, people making them, and so our mission was to get out there and clear those, capture or kill any, capture any enemies with that. Well, during that mission, prior to the mission, it was a restless night. But I did have a soldier die in action. His name was Staff Sergeant Du Hai Tran, and he's from the San Fernando Valley area. His story was unique as I continue to learn about Du Hai, even when we were there in theater. Sergeant Duhan, Sergeant Tran, he during post-Vietnam War, he was a young kid and a refugee, and left Vietnam at the end of the Vietnam War as a child, and went to Cambodia. And because his parents had left the country into Cambodia, for some reason he stayed back with one of his family members. As he got older, as a young child, teenage, preteen, I guess you could say, he traveled to Cambodia and reunited with his family, came to America, and enlisted in the Army. In fact, that combat tour that he was with, he had just returned from a combat tour less than 12 months, and back then there wasn't a restriction to have soldiers at least have 12 months rest before they go to another deployment. You could go back to back, and he was one of the ones that, because he was stationed already in Germany and deployed to Iraq with another unit in Germany, he got assigned to us, and he had an option to waive that right to stay, and he went with us. But yeah, a lot of times I think of Sergeant Tran. I did, during that mission we had a KIA, we had about 8 wounded in action. Out of those wounded in action, I had a couple others. Had one died, his name was Specialist Kevin Dreyer. He died of his wounds later in that when he came back to America and was going through his recovery. But I thank them, I thank them for their service, I thank their family. And I stay in contact with Mrs. Tran through social media. Actually, he was my neighbor in Germany when we lived in military family housing, because Sergeant Tran left a wife and a daughter. His daughter was about the same age as my second daughter, she is about 16 years old now. Can't read, I think 17. So we stay in contact just to see how they're doing, to let them know that we don't forget about her father. And I always, put it out that if she ever wants to know anything about her father, I can share with her as his leader what type of soldier leader he was, and and I always let her know that I'm always available for that.
Okay, do you recall the day your service ended?
Yes, my retirement date. I retired November 30th of 2018, which culminated at 31 years and 28 days, if you want to be exact. So, it was a great feeling because I knew it was time to close that chapter of my life of military service and to focus on my family in my life post-military. So I remember the day, and what was great about it is I was able to conduct my retirement ceremony in the Presidio of Monterey, so I was able to have family here in the Valley and attend that ceremony, where if I was in would have had it conducted out in Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, it would have been minimum family attendance. So that day was a memorable day. My uncle, who happened to also be a Army veteran retiree, command sergeant major, I asked him to speak on my behalf for my ceremony. So he shared a lot of good information, insights, post-military too, and just, it was a great event. And I remember that day, November 18, 2018. That was my last day of active duty.
Well, let's see, where were you when the war came to an end?
So it all depends. Where was I when the war came in? I mean, when the Iraqi war came to an end, I was actually in Afghanistan. So that was that 2010 when President Obama officially said that the Iraqi war was ended. We were in Afghanistan. And then this last war, in Afghanistan, I was right here in the Valley as a retiree, just enjoying retirement and watching what took place as we pulled all our troops out of Afghanistan.
Can you describe the readjustment to civilian life?
Little bumpy, I would say. What helped me though, in preparation for that, prior to me retiring, some of my special duty assignments. I mean, one of them was a U.S. Army recruiter, which was in Los Angeles, in Inglewood, California. It gave me a taste of life beyond the military, just kind of what life's about again after the military. So that kind of helped set conditions in the future. But it took a little adjusting because I was so focused on always doing my mission and always working and preparing for the next, either deployment or training event, that I didn't have to do all that anymore, So for about the first 30 to 60 days, I was still on that early schedule, getting up at old dark 30, ready to do some PT. And then as time continued to pass, I kind of slowly, stopped doing that, and I kind of reminded myself, hey, you don't have to do that more. You can sleep in if you want to sleep in. I've had some previous jobs after post-military. They've been, but my military experience actually helped me prepare for that. So for me, I think my adjustment overall has been pretty good. It hasn't been too rough. Had bumps in the roads, little setbacks of, just with myself, but lessons learned, from it, and what can you do to get better,
Did you reach out to any organization or individuals during this time period?
Yeah. So when I came back to the Valley and decided to come back home and retire, I reached out to the local VFW here in Hanford and attended one of their first meetings and joined them. And I found out that our principal, Mr. Bob Davis, was a Korean War veteran. Didn't even know that going to high school, and he happened to be a member of the VFW here in Hanford. So that was great to know. Just seeing Mr. Davis, who was obviously retired from the school district, also knowing that he was a Korean War veteran, and it was great to speak with him and talk to him, from veteran to veteran. So it was good to be to join an organization that we have fellowship and camaraderie, and we have that connection as veterans, no matter which branch of service they're from.
What was the reception at home like though when you came back?
Well, from deployment home, it was amazing. It was great. My first deployment coming when I was stationed out in Fort Lewis, Washington, with 1st Brigade, 25th Infantry Stryker Brigade. I remember coming home. I remember when we landed into Dallas, Texas, and we had the cross fire hose water coming when we were in the aircraft, and then coming off that, deplaning off that aircraft to connect to our next flight. All the veterans organizations, just the people of Dallas, and all that just made you feel like a hero. They welcomed you, and I know some of my comrades and fellow veterans, and in the Vietnam era didn't experience that. And I think America got it right this time with this, Iraqi war and Afghanistan war and welcoming our veterans. So I think it was great, and those were the experiences I experienced through all 3 deployments based on where I was located in the country. It was a welcoming event, feeling proud of my service, the sacrifices I made, my soldiers, my leaders made, to defend, freedom and democracy, and to help other nations defend themselves.
What was your occupation after your service?
I'm sorry?
What was your occupations after your service?
What was my occupation after service? Well, initially I went to Federal Background Investigator Training Academy. I graduated from that academy. When I got ready to do the on-the-job training, I saw that it wasn't what I really wanted to do, so I went ahead and just withdrew from it, the remaining process, and just said, I need to retire. Just enjoy retirement, decompress, relax, spend time with my family. I felt thankful that I was able to come back home to my family and serve all those years and retire. So for a whole year I retired, and after I retired in 2019, I was able to get a job with the Kings County and job training office as an employment training technician, which I found rewarding. It was a great job. It was full-time, but that was my real first job after military experience.
Did you continue your education after your service?
No, I had thankful that I was able to get my education while I was on active duty. And like I said, prior to me retiring April of 2018, I did achieve my graduate's degree, and so I was thankful for that. However, what's so great about the military and the benefits is that I still had my post 9/11 GI Bill, and about 10 plus years ago, the Department of Defense finally made a decision to let the service members transfer their educational benefits to their family members, to their children or their wife or husband, and that's what I did. I transferred my educational benefit, my post 9/11 education benefits, GI Bill, to my children, and my oldest child right now is using it, and in Los Angeles, so at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, so it's being used, so definitely.
I think we touched upon this last question. Have you stayed in contact with your fellow veterans?
Yes, I still stay in contact.
Okay, reflections. Do you attend reunions, or are you involved with any military organizations or ceremonies?
I haven't attended any reunions yet. I do plan on attending. I'm part of the 2nd Cavalry Regiment Association, and they usually do an annual reunion somewhere in the United States. This year they did it down in Fort Benning, Georgia, so I plan on attending one of their events in the future. I do attend our local events here, the Veterans Day events. I'm part of the VFW here in Hanford, and we host the Veterans Day event here at downtown Hanford. And so those are some of the events I attend.
Okay. How has your military service affected your life, and what life lessons or observations did you gather?
Well, if I reflect on my whole life as a 19-year-old kid, coming, enlisting into the military, the Army and the military experience helped me grow as a man. Gave me an opportunity to build on a solid foundation of, values, such as, personal courage, loyalty, integrity. Made lifelong friends. She has life experiences that'll go with me, that'll be reign with me for the rest of my life. Successes, failures, happiness, joy. As I reflect on my whole career, I feel thankful. I feel blessed. I feel, the Army gave me an opportunity. Sky was the limit, really. You come in, and that's what I used to always tell young soldiers that would come in, what their goals were, why they enlisted in the Army, what do they plan on doing, and just kind of, hear their stories, and share my story with them, and because again, the Army is what you make of it, and I feel blessed. I feel like I've had a good career. I've had a successful career. It's a positive event.
Okay. How have these experiences impacted your perspective on military service and war?
Well, knowing when you enlist into the military, regardless of what branch, you take the oath of enlistment, and the oath of enlistment, says, I promise to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So, foreign tells you if you have to go overseas to defend the Constitution or the freedom, you have to make that commitment. So it just validated what I already knew I was committed to do when I decided to enlist in the Army and make it a career throughout my career. So.
Future generations will see this interview. What would you like them to know?
Serving in the military, regardless of what branch, is an honorable thing. Not everybody can do it. Some try, and some succeed, and some don't. But even throughout my career, and as I have had fellow peers, subordinate leaders, young soldiers that I've led, I've spoken with them, and the ones that have continued to want to serve, I encourage them. The ones that felt that it was their time, I encourage them too. That I thank them for their service. So, just remember whatever's going on in your life at the time. Serving in the military is a good thing, I think. It helped a young 19-year-old kid raised with number 7 of 8 children. Really kind of growing up poor, being able to succeed. I was able to succeed and achieve, what I achieved in the Army. But again, I hope that through lessons learned, that through all our veterans, and take the time to speak with a veteran if you just want to get perspective on life and experiences of life here within the United States or even overseas and abroad. And you'll be surprised at what you'll hear. But it's a good point, a good reference point to just understand that, we all make a commitment. And if you decide to enlist or serve in the military, I ask that, just stay committed and give 100%.
Okay. You have a few photos here. Would you like to hold them up? Or?
Well, I can show a couple here. Like I said, my father, he served in the military, so this is him right here. He was in the U.S. Army. That's my mother, so I just kind of kept those photos. We kind of all have it. And he was really the starting point, I guess, for our family within the military and that. So just wanted to share that, kind of see. And then, I just showed a younger version of myself when I was serving with the 1st Cav Division. And it was great. It was an opportunity. I enjoyed 1st Cav, 1st Team, and that. And then as I continued to make rank and had the honor of serving as a 1st Sergeant. Again, it's just a photo of me as a 1st Sergeant. Had a great opportunity to serve as a 1st Sergeant in 3 organizations. And then one of my special assignments that I was able to do was an Inspector General, Sergeant Major. So I was able to do that in 8th Army in Yongsan, Korea. So it was a great opportunity in that. And then obviously my culminating position that I was able to serve as a Command Sergeant Major for a battalion and Field Artillery Battalion. So it was a great opportunity, and I enjoyed it, and it was great.
Is there anything else you would like to add to this interview?
Nels, thank you, sir, for just allowing me the opportunity to share my story, to be a part of history. And I'm very proud and happy that I was able to serve my country and give back, and I want to continue to give back to my community. And thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Perez, thank you so much for taking the time for this interview, and above all, thank you for your service to the country.
Thank you.